What's up guys? Today's an exciting day because today is the day that I'm going to review Hoka's crown jewel, the Hoka Clifton 6. When the very first Clifton came out in 2014, it was meant to be an alternative to the standard maximalist shoes that most people associate Hoka with. The Hoka Clifton 1 came in at a trim 7.6 ounces in a men's size 9. With each new iteration of the Hoka Clifton becoming heavier than the one before, all the way up until the Hoka Clifton 5. Which weighed in at 10.1 ounces. The Hoka Clifton 6 is an attempt to go back to Hoka's roots and to a lighter alternative for a maximalist shoe. The Clifton 6 comes in at 8.9 ounces in a men's size 9, which is the first time that Hoka's Clifton has dipped under 9 ounces since the very first Hoka Clifton. As with most Hokas, it does have its signature 5mm drop from heel to toe. So as a runner, there are three main categories that I judge running shoes by: the fit, the ride, and the durability. There are plenty of traits that make a good running shoe, but these three reign supreme to me. So first off, we're going to go over the fit. As a runner with wide feet, I've always run into issues with Hoka's narrow fitting shoes. I do order the wide version of Hoka's shoes, and this is a pretty solid fix. I do end up with a little bit of extra shoelace at the end of tying my shoes, but that's a small price to pay to avoid the pains that are associated with running in a shoe that's just too narrow. So if you do have wide feet, Hoka does run a little bit narrow, but getting the wide version is a pretty simple fix. I've been running in Hokas for 6 years now, and the biggest complaint I have had about them is the fit. The fit just always seemed to be a little bit behind the competition. However, with the Hoka Clifton 6, I think they got it right. Starting with the mesh, this mesh is very soft, very breathable. As you can see, there are vents in it, and very forgiving. It's stiff enough to keep your foot in place, but it does have a little bit of give to it, which is nice and something that I look for in the uppers of all running shoes. Another thing I want to bring up is the thickness of this material, which I can't really show you on camera, but the thickness is just right. It's thick enough to give you that soft sock-like feeling in the upper, yet it's not too thick to be able to take out on the hottest of runs. You're not gonna overheat with this upper. There's plenty of ventilation. One thing I want to bring up with the upper is that they do have some stitching, which they refer to as embroidery reinforcement, to hold the shoe a little more snug around your midfoot. It's not a deal breaker to me. It's in a spot where I don't really feel it as I run, but I do want to bring it up because this does keep the shoe upper from being completely seamless. I've run 150 miles in these shoes, and I have not had any hot spots associated with this stitching. Moving on to the heel cup, it's nice and strong. It doesn't budge when pushed from the back. It's flexible from the sides, just what you want from a heel cup, as well as a nice soft heel collar to pair nicely with it. Moving on to the tongue, it's actually trapped inside of the... Oh wait, that's as far as it goes. So the tongue is the only complaint that I have with this fit. Overall, the fit is great, but the tongue I am not a big fan of because look, where is it? Hoka intentionally shortened the tongue of the Clifton 6 to reduce the risk of any sort of rubbing associated with the tongue onto the front of your ankle. I'd like to say that in my 21 years of running, I have never had any issue with the tongue rubbing or chafing on my running shoe, of any running shoe, of any brand, ever. So that kind of makes what Hoka did here with the tongue seem sort of unnecessary. However, if you are somebody who has struggled with chafing of the tongue, maybe this is a solution for you. My worry is that the shortening of the tongue has introduced a whole new set of problems to certain runners. So because the tongue is so short, if you tighten your shoes up, The laces come up all the way almost to the very top of the tongue, and to the point where it looks like there is a real possibility of the laces coming over the tongue. And though this has never actually happened to me in my 150 miles so far of this shoe, it is something to keep an eye on when you're fitting the shoe, because these shoelaces do ride up. They also are on a part of the tongue that doesn't have the most cushioning. So I do feel a little bit more concentrated pressure right in the talus region of my foot, the very front of my ankle, from these shoelaces. And so I kind of find myself walking this tightrope of trying to make sure that the shoe is tight enough around my ankle, but making sure to not put too much pressure digging in onto the front of my ankle, which could cause a hot spot, and I have had problems with that in the past. This of course is going to vary for everybody. Everybody has a different foot shape, foot size, and so forth. So this may not be a problem for you personally, but it is something that I recommend keeping an eye on when you're fitting the shoe, because the laces come up pretty high on that tongue. Overall though, Hoka has done a great job with the fit of this shoe, and my skepticism of Hoka's fit from past versions completely dissolves with this one. It does have a small flaw in the tongue, in my opinion. Again, it may be just a matter of preference. I don't like it. Great fit overall, and it's pretty much standard of what you would expect from a top tier shoe, from a top tier brand, from Hoka. For the fit, I am rating it an 8 out of 10. Now we're moving on to category number 2, the ride. While the fit is something that's been underwhelming in a lot of the past models of Hoka, the ride has always reigned supreme of Hoka shoes. This shoe is no different. Even with the Clifton 6 shedding some weight, it still has plenty of cushioning, and it has what it takes to handle your heavy duty, longest of runs. And where it falters in respect to the original Clifton is its responsiveness. It doesn't quite have the bounce to make it a viable shoe for intervals or speed workouts, and that plush cushioning that makes it a top choice for those long runs and recovery runs also exclude it from being able to be a viable option for your speedier runs. And so whether this is a good thing or a bad thing really comes down to your training habits. Just know that if you are doing regular speed workouts, you may want to swap out the Clifton 6 for a speedier shoe when you're doing those workouts. A second point about the ride is its meta rocker. Hoka's signature meta rocker remains unchanged in the Clifton 6, and if you're not really sure what the meta rocker is, it cleans up sloppy form by taking what would be joint damaging heel strikes and rocking them forward onto your forefoot. This is a lifesaver, because honestly when you get to mile 22 and you're exhausted, who has perfect form at mile 22? Not me. Another thing that I'm very happy that the Clifton 6 retained is Hoka's compressed EVA foam through the midsole. This means that the plush cushioning of Hoka shoes that we've all gotten to know and love remains the same in the Hoka Clifton 6. So with the changes that were made in the 6, I am very glad that they kept their bread and butter, which is the meta rocker and the compressed EVA foam. The great ride that Hoka has always been known for remains the same. The criticism that you could give about the ride is that it can't do it all. It's not an all-purpose shoe. And the answer to this criticism is that it wasn't designed to be an all-purpose shoe. So if you do want an all-purpose shoe, you're gonna need one that's a little more responsive than this to get through your speed workouts. However, this shoe is the best in the business for what it was designed to do, which is slow to moderately paced runs, and for that I'm giving the ride a 9 out of 10. Moving on to the third and final category, the durability. The Clifton 6 has just enough rubber on the sole of the shoe to protect the majority of its EVA foam, as well as keep it relatively light in terms of a maximal cushion shoe. However, this leaves far too much exposed EVA foam for any kind of aggressive trail running. This shoe was not designed for trail running. If you do trail run regularly, this is not the shoe for that. It was made for the road, which it excels at. In fact, I would say that the Clifton 6, even with this exposed EVA foam, is above average in terms of durability for a road shoe. And as I said, this is how it looks for me after 150 miles of wear. Moving on to the upper, there are no visible signs of wear. The upper looks brand new. There's no signs of fraying, of splitting, or any kinds of wear on the upper. So for the durability on the upper, big thumbs up to Hoka on that. Everybody's gonna have a different rate of wear on their shoes just depending on their form, depending on the terrain you're running on, depending on the workouts you're doing in this shoe. But I'm confident in saying that if you use this shoe for what it was made for, which is slow to moderate paced runs on the road, that this shoe will outlast the average road running shoe. The only negative mark that I can give the Clifton 6 in terms of durability is kind of along the same lines as the ride, in that it's not a Swiss Army knife. It's not an all-purpose shoe. It wasn't made to be an all-purpose shoe, so you can't take it out on trail runs. You can get away with the occasional trail running if necessary, but if you're doing anything aggressive, if most of your runs are on the trail, this shoe will not make it. However, using it for what it was made for, which is slow to moderate runs on the road, this shoe excels in that area. It's what you would expect in terms of durability for a road shoe, if not just a notch higher than average. So for that, I give the durability an 8 out of 10. All in all, the Clifton 6 is a very well-made shoe that I would recommend, and despite some small hiccups along the way, like its lack of versatility, its very small tongue, the Clifton 6 remains a top-tier choice for your long runs and for your recovery runs. It finishes with a final score of 25 out of 30, and it's carved out a spot in my shoe lineup as one of my set it and forget it shoes, meaning I can buy this shoe every year and not really have to worry about it. Just lace them up and go run. It's one of only 2 shoes in my lineup that I'm confident enough in to buy every year and not have to worry about. The other one is the Saucony Kinvara. So I hope this review on the Clifton 6 has been helpful for you. I understand that there's no way for me to go through every detail of this shoe in this short video. So for anything that I haven't answered, that you still want answered, make sure to leave a comment below and I'll answer you right back. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.